Alrighty guys, today we're going to go through the Unit 4 test study guide, and this unit was all about linear equations, writing the equations, whereas last unit was all about identifying slope and the parts of a linear equation. This unit is all about actually writing the linear equations. So in the first section here, we cover both target 1 and target 3, which is to write the equation of a line when given the graph of the line. So I would start by looking for the y-intercept. We say that when we say write the equation for each given graph, we're looking for slope-intercept form. So you can start with the slope or you can start with the y-intercept. Actually, let's start with the slope. Let's just go in order here. From the bottom dot to the top dot, we're going to do rise over run. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and that's 3 to the left. So our slope is 3 over -3, which is -1. And then our y-intercept here is the y-axis. And we are crossing right here at 0. So b equals 0. So the equation for this line would be y equals -1x plus 0. However, you will never see it written like that. First of all, you'll never see coefficients of 1 or -1 written. -1x is the same as -x. And you'll never see plus 0, ever, ever, ever. So this is what the final form of your equation would look like. For number 2, my slope, my rise is 0, and my run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0 divided by 5 is 0, so I have a slope of 0. And my y-intercept here, here's my y-axis, and I'm crossing right here at +4. So I would have, and let me actually see if I can slide this over a little bit like this. I would have y equals 0x plus 4. But again, you will never see 0x because what is 0 times x? It's 0. And 0 plus 4 is 4. So this is what the equation of a horizontal line looks like. I think I will actually zooming in helps a lot. All right. For number 2, I guess I went out of order there, didn't I? I went from 1 to 4. Oh well. For number 2, my slope is 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, we have to simplify this to 1/3. Any fraction in your equation has to be simplified. Here is, whoops, I thought I changed that color. Here is the y-axis. Oh, the y-intercept is not a number that I can figure out, is it? All right, for this problem, we're not going to be able to use, we're not going to be able to just do y equals mx plus b, because look right here, your line passes through the y-axis at a point that is not an integer. So what we're not going to do is eyeball it. I'm not going to look at it and say, well, I think it looks like it's about 1/2, maybe a little bit more than 1/2. I'll call it 2/3. No, 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 no. What we're going to do is we know that there are other ways that we can find the equation of the line. So let me see, does this learning target say specifically? No, it doesn't say. Okay, so we're going to use the fact that we have 2 points. We're going to use the point slope formula. So the first point here is 4, 0. The second point right here is -2, -2. Okay, so we know that we can find the slope by doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So -2 minus 0 over -2 minus 4. That gives me -2 over -6, which, shocker, is 1/3. We already knew it was 1/3 because we did rise over run, but it's nice to have the confirmation. Now, what we can do is we can take the slope and we can put it into our point slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So y minus, and we can use either point. I'm going to use the point with the positive numbers because then I don't have to deal with negatives. y1 is 0. Slope is 1/3. x minus, and x1 is 4. And then I just simplify. Let me slide this up a little bit. Y minus 0 is y. 1/3 times x is 1/3 x, and 1/3 times negative 4 is negative 4/3. Here is our equation. Sorry about that. So what you guys need to be able to do is you need to be flexible in your thinking. You need to be able to say, like I just did a few minutes ago, oh, wait a second, I can't identify the y-intercept. What other options do I have? What other things have I learned that would enable me to get to my end result of having the equation? Oh, I can use the point slope formula. You got to be able to switch ideas like that. Okay, let's take a look at this one. So I guess maybe I should check the y-intercept first. And it looks to me like it is an integer, negative 6. So I think with this one we can do the slope y-intercept. So slope is 1, 2, 3, 4 over negative 1. That would be negative 4. Y-intercept is negative 6. So y equals negative 4x minus 6. Okay. Next one, we have a vertical line. And remember, a vertical line has an undefined slope. Okay. So we know that, remember, Hoy-Bucks, vertical, undefined, x equals. So the equation is going to say x equals, and then look at the x-axis. What is the x value? It is negative 5. So x equals negative 5 is the equation. Basically, for any point on the line, like for example right here, is negative 5, 4, I think. Here is negative 5, 3. Here is negative 5, 2. Here is negative 5, 1. You can see that all of these points have negative 5 in common. That means x equals negative 5. And moving over to number 6, my y-intercept right there, take a look at that. My y-intercept, oops, is not an integer. It's between 0 and 1. So I'm going to have to go to what I just did a few minutes ago. I'm going to have to use the point slope formula. Now, I can do rise over run for the slope part. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know my slope is 3/4. So I'm going to choose a point, and I think I'll choose this point because the coordinates are positive. This point here on the bottom would be negative 2, negative 1, and I just don't want to deal with negatives when I'm doing point slope formula, because why should I? All right, so y minus y1 is 2. Slope is 3/4. X minus 2. So simplify. I'm going to keep y minus 2 for a second. I need to distributive property. 3/4 x minus 6/4. And I'm going to need to add 2 on both sides to get y by itself. 3/4 x. And let's see. 6/4. I'm going to do mental math here. Plus 2 over 1. 2 over 1 is the same as 8/4. Whoops. So negative 6/4 plus 8/4 is 2/4, which is 1/2. Now you could let Desmos do that for you. It's going to turn out to be positive. So if you don't want to deal with those fractions, just let Desmos do it. Okay. There is what you have to be able to do from a graph. So for some, they're very easy. You can use just y equals mx plus b like number 1. Some of them, like number 2 and number 6, you're going to have to do the point slope formula because your y-intercept is not an integer. So you just got to be able to think to yourself, okay, I know 2 or 3 different ways to do this. Let me choose the way that matches the information that I'm given. Also make sure you know your horizontal and vertical line equations. Moving to target 2, I can write the equation of a line given the slope and a point on the line, or 2 points on the line. If you have the slope and a point, you're going to use the point slope formula, which we just used. If you're given 2 points, you're going to find the slope first. and then you're going to go use the slope in the point slope formula. So it's a lot of work, but it's pretty easy math. Number 7, write the equation of the line whose slope is -3 and passes through the point. So I have a point and I have the slope, so I can go straight to the point slope formula. Y minus y1 is 6. Slope is -3. X minus x1 is -2. Be careful because the subtraction sign and the negative for the 2 are not the same symbol. So this is really x plus 2. I'm going to rewrite it. Okay, distributive property here. Let me go over here to make some space. Y minus 6 equals -3x minus 6. Add 6 on both sides. And I have y equals -3x because here's a 0 pair. This is the equation of the line. Number 8. For number 8, I have 2 points. So I'm going to use the slope formula first. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 is 2. y1 is 0. x2 is 2. x1 is -5. So be careful again here. 2 minus 0 is 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. So there's our slope. Now, take the slope and go into the point slope formula. I'm going to use the point with the positives. All right, I put the 2's there because of the x and y values right here, and 2/7 because that's the slope. Simplify first by distributive property. Add 2 on both sides. Let's see, -4/7. Again, I'm going to do mental math. Plus 2. 2 would be 14/7. That would give me 10/7. Okay. Sorry for the cough, you guys. No, I do not have coronavirus. Okay. Number 9, write the equation of the line that has a slope of 1 and passes through 0, 0. So I can go straight to my point slope formula. y1 is 0, slope is -1, x1 is also 0, distribute. Y minus 0 is y. -1x minus 0 is -1x. And -1x is really -x. Here is our equation. Number 10, write the equation of the line that passes through 3, 1 and -4, 4. So first thing I need to do is find the slope. So y2 is 4, y1 is 1, x2 is -4, x1 is 3. So this would be -3/7. That's your slope. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I will use this point, y minus 1, slope, x minus x1. We have to distribute here. I'm going to just put it underneath. So -3/7 x plus 9/7. Add 1 to both sides. So let's see, I'm going to make this kind of sideways. Y equals -3/7 x. 9/7 plus 1. 1 is 7/7. So that's really 16/7. Plus, there we go. Here's our equation. It's hard to write as small as I can write with a pencil on this whiteboard, you guys, so sorry about that. Number 11, write the equation of the line that has a slope of 2/3 and passes through -5, -1. So since we have the slope already, we can go straight to the point slope formula. So y minus y1 is -1. Be careful of the double negatives. Slope is 2/3. X minus x1 is -5. More double negatives. Let me simplify this by changing those to positives. All right, distribute right here. 2/3 x plus 10/3. And then let me come over here and rewrite. I need to subtract 1 on both sides to simplify. 1 would be 3/3, so 10/3 minus 3/3 would be 7/3. And there's our equation. All right, so that is a quick review of the point slope formula and the point formula. Okay, you have notes somewhere, and we did lots of practice items. And if you can't find your notes, look in the section of my website that says notebook pages, and you will find those. Let's go to learning target 4. I can write the equation of a line parallel or perpendicular to a given line through the given point. So first of all, how can you tell if two equations represent parallel lines? Well, parallel lines never touch. So if this is a line, a parallel line would be at the same angle. And remember, what do we use to describe the angle or the steepness of a line? That's slope. So if the two lines never touch, they have to have the same angle, which means they have to have the same slope. How can you tell if two equations represent perpendicular lines? Perpendicular lines cross at 90-degree angle. So in order to have a 90-degree angle, they have opposite reciprocal slopes. So opposite means change the sign, positive to negative, negative to positive. Reciprocal means to flip the fraction. So if I have a slope of 2, the reciprocal would be 1/2. If I have a slope of 3/4, the reciprocal would be 4/3. And then I would change the sign. So if it was positive 2, I'd make this negative 1/2. If it was negative 3/4, I'd make it positive 4/3. So write the equation of any line that is parallel to y equals 2x. So parallel means it has to have the same slope. So the 2x part has to stay the same. We could use any y-intercept. Write the equation of any line that is perpendicular to y equals -5x. So -5 is -5/1. So the reciprocal would be positive 1/5, opposite reciprocal. So the slope has to be 1/5 x. And if it says any line, we could leave it like this, or we could add ourselves a different y-intercept if we wanted to. Write the equation of a line that is parallel to -2/3 x and passes through -2/3. So we need the point slope formula. And y1 is 3. And we need to know what to use for the slope. So we're looking for parallel, which means it's the same slope as this one. So we're going to keep -2/3. And x1 is -2. Be careful of the double negatives. Let me rewrite it as positive. Distributive property. -2/3 x minus 4/3. Add 3 on both sides. Let's see, 3 would be 9/3. So -4 plus 9/3 would be 5/3. There's our equation. Write the equation of a line that is perpendicular to y equals 7x minus 3 and passes through 0, 4. So we need our point slope formula. And y minus y1 is 4. Now I need my slope. the current slope is 7, but I need the perpendicular slope. So if 7 is really 7 over 1, it would be 1/7, and I have to change it to negative. So negative 1/7 would be the perpendicular slope, and 0 is this. So y minus 4 equals, we can distributive property, negative 1/7 x minus 0. That would be y minus 4 equals negative 1/7 x. If I add 4 to both sides, I get y equals negative 1/7 x plus 4. All right, Ms. Bryant says that the two equations below represent lines that are parallel. Ms. Moore says that they are perpendicular. Who is right? Show all work and explain who is right and why. So when it says show all work, what work do we need to show? Well, notice that these equations are in standard form, not y equals mx plus b form. And remember, you have to have the slope-intercept form in order to see what the slope is. So we're going to have to solve these equations for x. So 2y equals negative 4x plus 12. Divide everything by 2. Y equals negative 2x plus 6. Second one, I need to add 6x on both sides. I'm going to get 3y equals 6x plus 6. Divide by 3. Y equals 2x plus 2. So I say that they're parallel. Ms. Moore says they are perpendicular. Who's right? Well, one equation has a slope of negative 2. The other equation has a slope of positive 2. Guess what? Neither of them are right. Because in order for the equation of the lines to be parallel, they'd have to have the same slope, which they don't. In order to have the lines be perpendicular, they have to have negative reciprocal slopes, which they don't. They would have to be negative 2 and positive 1/2, or positive 2 and negative 1/2. So neither one of us are right. And that is the reason why. What we do have here, if I have a negative 2 and a positive 2, what I have are two lines that are reflections of each other. One is like this and one is like this, okay? But notice, take a look at the place where they intersect. There are no right angles there. So we do not have perpendicular lines. Moving on to, number 5, or rather, learning target 5. I can graph a linear equation in two variables, including those that arise from a variety of practical problems. So we have some word problems here. Quite a number of them actually. And we need to create the equation basically. And then from the equation, we can solve to find what they're asking us for. So the startup cost to join eTunes Music is $7.99 plus 95 cents per, let me get my pen, here we go, per song downloaded. If Will spent $26, write and solve a linear equation to show how many songs he downloaded. So songs is our X, because that's the thing we don't know. So you have to spend $7.95 plus 95 cents per song. And when he did that, he spent $26. So to solve this equation, we subtract $7.95 on both sides. It's hard to make a dot with this tiny thing. 0.95x equals, I have no idea. Let me pull my calculator up. Hopefully you have Desmos. 26 minus 795 is 1805. And then we move this over here. We're going to divide by 0.95. And X is equal to 19 songs. So Will was able to download 19 songs. Going to number 20. At a pet store, it costs $5 to wash a cat and $7.50 to wash a dog. Last week, the store made $60 from pet washings. If 6 cats were washed, Write to solve a linear equation to find out how many dogs were washed. So we have, I'm going to make x equal to cats and y equal to dogs. All right, so the store made $60. It cost $5 to wash a cat, and there were 6 of them. So that's 30. It cost $7.50 to wash a dog. Actually, let's switch this. Actually, yeah, let's make that X. Actually, cats wouldn't even be Y either. That would be the total. Okay, let me redo this for you. Let's say this was Y and this was X. I'm going to back up here. Instead of putting 30, I'm going to say 5Y. So there's my cats. $5 per cat, $7.50 per dog. Now, I know that there were 6 cats washed, so I can substitute a 6 here. That gives me my 30. Okay, so that's where that came from. And actually, it doesn't really matter if this variable is x, y, d, g, q, whatever. It doesn't really matter. We just need to solve this equation. I'm going to subtract 30 on both sides. That's going to give me 30 equals 750x. And I'm going to divide by 750. And let me run to my calculator. And it's 4. So 4 dogs were washed. I actually probably shouldn't use X and Y because sometimes it gets you confused. Like it just gave me confused for a second. Usually I would use a variable like that matches what I'm doing. So like for cats, I would put C, and for dogs, I would put D. Then you don't get confused about X or Y and which one is supposed to be which. So let's use that idea going forward. Okay, so for number 21, Alex is on a diet to lose some weight. He's losing at a rate of 2 pounds per week. After 6 weeks, he weighs 205 pounds. Write and solve a linear equation to show how long it will take Alex to reach his goal weight of 175. So this one's a little bit tricky because we know he started at a weight higher than 205 and he's lost 2 pounds per week to get there. But that doesn't really matter what happened before. What matters is what's happening now. He's starting at 205. He's losing, so minus 2 pounds per week. And I don't know how many weeks it's going to take. And I want to know 205 pounds minus 2 pounds per week will equal 175. So I need to know what this is, which is the number of weeks. Okay. So we're going to solve this by subtracting 205 from each side. And let's see, 175 minus 205 should be what, 30? Negative 30 rather. And then if I divide by negative 2, x is equal to 15. So it will take Alex 15 more weeks to get there. Okay. All right, so for number 22, Jamie ordered 200 business cards and paid $23. Later, she ordered 500 more business cards and paid $35. Write and solve a linear equation to show the cost of ordering 700 business cards. So what we have to realize here is that we're being given 2 separate examples. And we can write those examples as points. 200 cards cost $23. 500 cards cost $35. With 2 points, we can find the slope, and then we can use the point slope formula. So I can find the slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And 35 minus 23 is 12 over 300. And I can divide by 2 and get 6 over 150, and I can divide by 2 again and get 3 over 75, and then I can divide by 3 and get 1/25. Okay, that's my slope. Then I can use the point slope formula. let's see. Okay. And what we'll do is we will say, okay, y, I'm going to go down here into the space. Y1, I guess I'll use the 223 just because the numbers are smaller. So y minus 23 equals my slope times x minus 200. Distributive property, 1/25 x. 200 divided by 25 is 8. Add 23 to both sides. And we get y equals 1/25 x plus 23 minus 8, 15. Okay, now that I have this equation, I want to know the cost of ordering 700 business cards. So I'll substitute 700 right here. All right, 700 divided by 25 is 28. Plus 15 is 43. So it would cost Jamie $43 to buy 700 cards. Okay. It just occurred to me, there's a page in your notebook about linear equation word problems, and it tells you the different strategies to use for each type of problem, like whether you're just going to use slope intercept or standard form or point slope form or 2-point form. And this happened to be a 2-point problem. So look back over that page in your notebook. I don't remember off the top of my head what page it was, but it's there, and it's in the notebook pages section of my website if you don't have your notebook at home with you. Okay. All right, so now let's go back to number 23. Marianne is printing photos from her recent trip to Europe. An online print shop, that should be shop, charges 15 cents per print and a flat rate shipping of $3. Marianne has $35 to spend. How many prints can she order? So per is a pretty good indication that you're being given slope. So I know it's the flat rate is $3. So she has $35 to spend. So 15 cents per print, because I don't know how many prints, that's my X, plus the flat rate of $3 is the $35 that she can spend. So this is very easy to solve. Subtract 3 on both sides. 0.15 equals 32. Divide by 0.15. Whoops, that's supposed to be an X there. And let's see, 32 divided by 0.15 gives you 213.3 repeating. Well, you can't buy a third of a photo, so she can order 213 prints. And for number 24, we're talking about Clint, who's in study hall reading The Hunger Games. After 20 minutes, he's on page 151. After 45 minutes, he's on page 181. How many pages had Clint already read before coming to study hall? Okay, so let's see. It looks to me like we have a 2-point situation again. After 20 minutes, he's on page 151. After 45 minutes, he's on page 181. So slope, uh, 181 minus 151, 45 minus 20. That gives me 30 over 25, which gives me 6/5. I'll use the point with the smaller numbers. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Distributive property, 6/5 x minus, let's see, what's 120 divided by 5? 24 plus 151. Oh. And I'm getting into the bottom page here. Let's see, so y equals 6/5 x and negative 24 plus 151, 127. Okay, so there's the equation. So the question wants to know how many pages had Clint already read before coming to study hall. So that means if he's in study hall right now, I want to know how many pages he had read before he came. So that would be where study hall is 0 minutes. And it's going to be 127 pages. Okay. I know these word problems are tough, but you just have to think about, okay, what does this have to do with any of the stuff that I've already been learning? How could I use the slope formula? How could I use the point slope formula? What does this have to do with anything? And start thinking of ways that you can relate what we've already learned back to these situations. This was 127 pages. And review that section in your notebook, because that is very helpful when you're solving these kind of problems. And let's move on to learning target 6. I think this is the end. All right, we're going to be talking again about transformations. So the equation for line A is y equals 1/2 x minus 2. The equation for line B is y equals negative 1/2 x minus 2. So if we're looking at what's different, 1/2 and negative 1/2, they're opposites but not reciprocals. So therefore what we have is a reflection. The equation for line C is y equals negative 3x plus 1. Write the equation of line D, which has been translated 6 units down. So that means the y-intercept has to be minus 6. So if I'm already at 1 and I go down 6, I will be at negative 5. So this would be y equals negative 3x minus 5. The equation for line E is y equals x plus 3, right? An equation for any line that is steeper than line E. So right now the slope for line E is 1. Any number bigger than 1 would be appropriate. So 2, 3, 4, 10, I'll say 10x. And it says any line, so I'll make my y-intercept 12. Number 28, write the equation for any line that is shallower than line E. So shallower, like if this is line E, it means it's more flat. So that means the slope number has to be smaller than 1. So smaller than 1, we're into fraction territory. So I'll go with 1/2. Any number smaller than 1 would be workable. For the following questions, use the graph at right. Number 29, write the equation of the line that is parallel to the given line and is translated up 4 units. So I need to know the equation of this line to be able to answer that question. So if I look at my slope, I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My slope is 3/5. My y-intercept, oh Lord, I don't know what it is. So I'm going to have to use my point slope formula. All right. So first thing, I've got my slope. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I will use this point because it has at least one positive number in it. So negative 1, 1 looks like the point. So y minus 1 equals slope times x minus x1, which is negative 1. So be careful of the double negatives. Distributive property, y minus 1 equals 3/5 x plus 3/5. Add 1 to both sides. 1 is 5/5. So 3/5 plus 5/5 is 8/5. Here's the equation of the line that exists. If I'm going to go parallel, I need to use the same slope. So y equals 3/5 x. And I need to translate up 4. So I need to move this up 4. Well, if I have 8/5 is my current y-intercept, plus 4, you can put that in Desmos if you need to. 4 is the same as 20/5, so that gives you 28/5. Okay. Write the equation of the line that is perpendicular and translate it down 2 units. All right, so if it's perpendicular to this line, I need to do the negative reciprocal of 3/5, which would be negative 5/3. There's my slope. And if I'm going to translate down 2 units, I need to do 8/5 minus 2. 2 is 10/5, so that's going to give me negative 2/5. And finally, write an equation of the line that is a reflection of the given line. I'm going to keep 3/5, but just make it the opposite. So negative 3/5, and I'm going to keep the 8/5 y-intercept. All right, guys, and there you go. I know that the hardest part of this one was the word problems. Please go into your notebook and find that page. I think it was 2 pages where we talked about linear equation word problems and like the 4 different types. I think one type was slope intercept, one was standard form, one was point slope. Actually, this is the cat dog formula. Let's go back to that one because I probably should have used the standard form for this one. Let's go back to this. The way that I did it is fine. Let's see if I get the same answer, I hope, of 4 dogs. But if I actually used like the equation format that I know, let's say that A is cats and B is dogs. So $5 per cat plus $7.50 per dog equals $60. And I know that 6 cats were washed, so 5 times 6 plus 7.5B equals 60. This was 30. So we would do the same thing. Subtract 30, subtract 30. We would get 7.5B equals 30. And if we divide by 7.5, sure enough, we get 4. So it works out the same, okay? But technically, when you're talking about 2 different things, a cat and a dog, you should go for the standard form. If they give you per, that's your slope, so you have slope intercept form. If they give you 2 examples, 2 separate examples, that's your point slope formula. And that's the same thing we had for 24. Okay, so there you go, guys. There's everything on here. Please feel free to email me if you work on these problems and have some trouble, or if you work on any of the ones in the resources section or through your notebook and have any issues. Feel free to email me and I can help you out. Until next time.